Good evening. I'm Rob Pettit, Chair of the Needham Board of Library Trustees. First, I'd like to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. From library staff, Kim Hewitt, Director.
Here, thank you.
Dimitri Kyriakis, Assistant Director.
Here.
Gay Ellen Dennett, Reference and Programming Specialist.
Here.
And Faith Chrisley, Reporting Secretary.
Here.
And for library trustees, Carol Thomas.
Present.
Anna Giraldo Kerr.
Here.
Kay Cahill. Oh, sorry, Kay, must have been on mute.
You're muted.
Here, sorry.
There we go. Tom Harkins.
Here.
And Jay Fialkoff.
Here.
Great. Good evening. It's now 7:03 p.m. on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, and this is an open meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees. This meeting is being conducted as a remote meeting under an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, or the Act, which was signed on June 16th, 2021. The Act allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded. This meeting will allow public comments by means of the chat function only. For this meeting, the Needham Board of Library Trustees is convening by Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all participants are participating by video conference. On video conference, please be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to unintentionally screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For effective and clear conduct of our business, for compliance with the Act, and to ensure accurate meeting minutes, I will restate our ground rules. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. The chair will invite members by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. To the extent practicable and within the bounds of open meeting law requirements for conducting a virtual meeting, we will keep the meeting style informal as we do when we meet in person. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking, and please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair recognizes you so that we do not speak over each other. Feel free to wave to get my attention. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. Any member of the public signed into the meeting as an attendee may submit written comment or question via the chat after identifying his, her, or their name and address only. The Assistant Library Director will monitor the chat inbox and alert the chair to submissions there. The chat submissions will be recorded and become part of the official record of the meeting. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote, which is a requirement of the Act. I now request a motion to automatically continue this meeting to Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. with the same Zoom ID number, our next regularly scheduled meeting, should any technical difficulty arise tonight to keep us from completing this meeting.
So
moved.
And a second?
Well, then I second if Anna's got the motion. I don't know which.
Perfect. Okay. I think that should be good. So I'll do the roll call. Tom?
Aye.
Anna?
Here. Aye.
Kay?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
And myself. Aye. So the first order of business on the agenda this evening is to elect the new slate of officers. Thanks very much to everybody for their support during the past year. It's been a pleasure being chair, and I look forward to taking on new roles this next year. I believe what we had discussed in the past was having Kay as chair and Anna as vice chair this forthcoming year, and Jay as secretary. Were there any discussions regarding the officer positions for next year?
Just to thank Rob for doing a great job in the last year. He really stepped up, and it was a pleasure having you lead our meetings.
Thanks, Kay. It's been a learning experience. Carol?
I move that the slate you just read be elected.
All right. Do we have a second?
Nominated, I guess I meant, yeah.
Do we have a second from anybody?
Maybe somebody who's not being, but I can second, but should it be somebody who's not being voted in, perhaps?
Well,
That
I'm being
would be-
nominated too, right?
I mean, we're all voting on this, so anybody can second other than me.
Okay, then second.
Alrighty. I'll do the roll call then. Tom,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Kay,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Thanks. And Kay, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Rob. And all right, off we go. So we have our next item is the minutes of the March meeting. So I'm not sure who reviewed them, but they look good to me. Any comments?
I have a question.
Yes, yes, sorry. I have to get the.
You're looking for Rob to say, okay. Joe.
Right.
I just want to make sure all the revisions of the February minutes, have those changes actually been made in the minutes themselves so that we don't have to look at those minutes and then look at these minutes to figure out we've actually made those adjustments to the official minutes themselves.
Yes, I did those before I did the March and sent them to Kim before I sent the March,
Okay, thanks.
if that answers the question.
Yeah.
So they're all embedded into the minutes. Carol? Carol?
So, yeah. So if there were changes to the minutes that as they were originally drafted, changes for February in the March minutes, did those get, if there were changes to that, did those get into the February minutes also? I think there
Kim,
was,
do you want me to speak first or do you want to speak first?
Not clear on what's being asked.
if there were changes, I mean, I think there were some changes in the draft minutes between.
For
when-
February,
Well, in the March minutes that included changes to February.
That's what I meant
Yes,
earlier when I
and
said,
those
I may
were-
have rephrased that incorrectly, Carol, earlier. I looked at the February minutes first, listened to the March recording, made the changes as voted on in March to the February minutes and sent those to Kim first before I finished the March and sent those to her. So yes, they are reflected on the final version of the February minutes that would be put up on the website.
and they are on the website.
I see.
Is that clear?
It-
I'm
it's-
sorry if it isn't.
it's
I'm happy to
clear,
rephrase.
I just know that when I looked at the minutes, I think we did make further changes in section 2. It seemed to me there were a few changes to the February, to your write-up on the February changes. I just want, maybe you could check that and see if they are the
Yeah, I'm
same.
happy to check it. I'll get it to you, Kim, okay?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So on the March minutes, do we look at those now? Anybody have any further changes than the ones that are mentioned here? No? Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the March minutes?
So moved.
I
Second.
Second by Carol. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, whoops, I guess I have to do the roll call. I need my list here. Anna,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jay.
Aye.
Great. Okay. Minutes accepted. Okay, so now we move to Kim's director's report. Yeah.
Thank you. So our mask mandate was lifted on March 7th. So I think I've mentioned that last time, but it's officially in the record now. Staff day took place on April 1st. It was really a successful day. We had training on brain health, communication, values work, and as well as did a lot of group work around customer service and the specific needs of our staff. We had about 46 people attend overall, and I really appreciate all the support that we got from the trustees, and it was nice to see a lot of you there getting to know some of the staff, so thank you. We participated in the Needham Education Foundation's Trivia Bee on March 10th, and we placed 15th out of 52 teams. So thank you again for that support as well. I know we had a lot of very excited people participating. They were very happy we had a team. We have selected a new vendor for our Wi-Fi project. It's LCN. They're on the state bid list. Currently, we're working on getting the a confirmatory agreement signed with the town. That's going to take a little bit of time, and then we're not sure what the timeline is for completion of the project. It's sort of, yeah, it's really up in the air. It's once we get the agreement signed, then they can schedule something. In the meantime, Danielle Tawa has received 15 additional hotspots, and she's working with our new technical services supervisor, Rand Cronin, to get them out to the public. I'll kind of skip through a few of the things we're getting, we're getting ready for summer reading. There's a good amount of children's information on there. There were 3 of us that attended the Public Library Association conference, March 23rd to 25th. It had a lot of great programming around diversity and challenges, which, is a hot topic. Dimitri attended the Virtual Computers and Library Conference at the end of March as well. And I am sure you have all seen, but the Needham Times is going out of print on May 5th. So I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions about it. I know that the town itself, I think, is going to try to move to, was it Hometown Weekly or Daily? Weekly.
Not daily.
Yeah, okay.
Weekly, yeah.
To post their notices for things, but I don't know that that's, there's just discussion that might be the move. And the MBLC notified of us of our second state aid award for this fiscal year, which was $24,430.84, which brings our total to $45,764.04 for the year. Let's see, where am I? Oh, yes.
So just
Yes.
quick question, Kim. So I was interested in the workshops that you've been to on the diversity seminars and also the virtual computers. Is anything exciting or new that you want to put on our radar screen, either of you?
Well, some of it's before you today with the collection development policies,
Okay.
actually. But yeah, there was a lot of things that I think it's more stuff that we'd be bringing back to our supervisory team specifically to talk about how to implement some things here. Certainly some helpful tools here and there in terms of tracking diversity initiatives and kind of tools that I want to explore a little more before I would really recommend something. Yes, it feels like it just happened yesterday, but it was a week ago. But Dimitri, do you want to talk about computers and libraries?
Yeah, I mean, the central theme really was how much everything has changed after the pandemic, how much programming the libraries are delivering virtually. There was a lot of discussion about the reluctancy of a lot of people coming back into the physical building. So there are quite a few programs on that. I'm trying to think a lot about IT security, something the libraries, because especially the specific nature of public libraries with their relationship with either a county or a city or a town, how it's sort of disconnected and how they should be joined together a little more. So in a nutshell, there were a lot of really interesting things, and it was nice to hear about things, similar themes all across the country. And of course, computers and libraries had libraries, academics, corporate, but there are a lot more public libraries this time around than other times that I've observed.
Great, thank you.
For sure.
Yeah. I also have the personnel section to review, and we started 4 new staff members. So we have Rand Cronin, who is our new technical services supervisor. She started April 1st. She took the big leap in on staff day, which is great. So I think actually a number of you were able to meet her. And Grace Falcone and Jill Myers started in circulation, and Courtney Trudeau started in children's. And we've just begun the process for hiring the last part-time technical services position. And I believe this rounds out the vacancies that we had. So, yeah, I think we're nearly at full staff.
Knock on wood.
Really excited. Yeah. What was that? Sorry, didn't you?
I said knock on wood. That's it. That's the last one.
Well, until someone else retires.
Oh, wait.
Different job.
Hopefully that's the last one we're doing for a while.
I know everyone's in a hiring frenzy at the moment, so I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm really excited that we've got a full complement in some of our key areas, especially with the tech services supervisor getting
Yeah.
started. For her to be able to pick the kind of last team member is going to be really special. So very much looking
Great.
forward to that.
Wonderful.
Any other questions about that part of the report? No, I'm happy to move on to the gifts too, because we have some very special gifts this month, a little bit beyond the norm. Okay, so for the permanent donation fund, we had $50 in memory of Rick Hardy from Lois and Bill Bacon. Charlene Smith had donated a copy of Ages of Wonder, which was a collection that she edited, and it included a lot of stories from Needham teens and teens around Needham. I believe they're all Asian authors. So she donated a copy of that, which is wonderful to add to our collection. There was a Buddhist group that donated a copy of Polishing the Diamond, Enlightening the Mind. And then we had an artist who, or I don't know if he is technically an artist, but he donated a bench to us, which I sent out a picture of, and it's a painting of Miss Rufius by Barbara Coney. And it has the quote, "You must do something to make the world more beautiful." And the whole book is about a woman who is going around planting flowers and making the world more beautiful around her. And it looks really lovely in the children's room. But with that particular gift, I think we need trustees' approval first before we can accept that officially. So yeah, and I believe that's the end of my gift report actually. So I would look for a motion to accept the gift list.
Yeah, any,
So moved.
okay, so is there any discussion about the gifts, Anna?
Could you remind me, is the bench built to be indoors or outdoors?
Indoors,
Indoors,
Yeah.
okay.
yes.
Carol? You're muted, Carol.
You have a good spot for it.
We do, yeah, in the children's room, actually, it like seamlessly blends into the painting that's already there. So it does,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
trying to remember just what, where that was, at the very end of the room or?
yes, at the very end of the room.
Yeah, that's great.
It's
So
charming.
it has a happy home and everybody's on board with it.
Yeah,
There's second, then if Tom made a motion, right?
I moved.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Anna seconds. Okay. So it sounds like we're all in favor of the gifts. I'll make the roll call to accept the gifts. Jay,
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Carol,
Hi.
Rob,
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Great.
yeah. Okay, where am I? All right. So the next, excuse me, the next items are the building and grounds report. And for once, I feel like we had a lot of things that were moved upon this month. The children's room lights were installed. At the time of this writing, they were only 3/4 of the way done. Now it's currently done. So I hope that some of you were able to stop by and see kind of when it was halfway done and you could really see the before and after. You can actually tell that the wall back there is a color, not a dark brown. It really does look nice. And we've been talking about where else we could add lights in the children's room in spots that are still a little bit darker, like right in front of the desk kind of is a little dark spot. Chairs are in the process of being ordered for the community room. The older chairs are going to be taken, the ones that kind of had little tears or things like that that we were replacing, they're going to be taken by Parks and Rec, which is great because they'll still get some use. We have a 6 to 12 week timeline for those. They're like made to order chairs. So we will get them, but we're not sure when. we had a, like a water contractor come out and repair leaks on the roof that were above the young adult room and above the archives. So hopefully that solves that little leak issue we had. And the custodians are focusing on washing the inside of the windows currently and starting some spring cleaning routines. We had an inspection on April 5th by the fire department and building department. We passed both of them. I'm expecting any day now to get the occupancy count for the community room, which will be nice. Good information to have. We'll get our certificates soon, but we don't have a date for that either. But it's good to know we've at least passed our things. The women's accessible bathroom on the first floor has been fixed. I will note that since being fixed, it has had 2 issues with the buttons being destroyed. But we had the parts to fix it again. But I am pretty concerned that this might not be a forever fix. And it's really unfortunate. I have no idea what's happening, but it was like someone tore off the buttons. So we'll see. It took forever to get them. And luckily Angel ordered a couple, but he's already gone through 2. So we still have an item pending, which is at the sink area inside the pantry, is at some point needing to be rescheduled to accommodate a wheelchair. So that's it for the building.
Carol?
Yeah. You're on.
I just wanted to add, I thought there was still some alarming to do at the 3rd floor level and the staircase, but I don't see that in the list, but that's still out there, right?
That is still out there. Yeah, I didn't catch that. That wasn't listed. But yes, we definitely are, still have that on.
And on
Oh,
the
and one more
buttons.
thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing that they just came and did this week was actually locking, adding the lock to the bathroom on the 2nd floor again and fixing that lock. So that's not on here because it hadn't happened yet, but just so you know. Yes. And sorry, Kay, I didn't.
Oh, I was just going to ask about the women's buttons in the women's accessible bathroom. Is there a form of sort of tamper-proof, vandal-proof buttons? Are they these particularly vulnerable to being damaged? Or?
I don't really get it because I believe they're the same buttons as if all the toilets in the bathroom.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if it's people that are using that accessible bathroom that maybe, just are using it kind of like a toy while they're in there. I'm not sure. But in talking to Angel about potentially just replacing that toilet, he has previously looked into that and was told it would be a massive undertaking because the tanks for those toilets are like built into the wall and then you have to so it is
Yeah.
I don't even know what that would look like to do because it's beyond what we could just replace, switch out a 1-to-1 sort of thing. So
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully it won't keep happening.
I hope not, because it was like twice in 1 week and it's really upsetting. Yeah, any other questions on the buildings and grounds? So then we have our financial reports. We had regular spending on overdrive and canopy. And sorry, for the state aid, I should specify. For state aid, we had regular spending on overdrive and canopy. And I had a request regarding the state aid. We were looking to move the money that had been previously set aside for the Collins Center study into the strategic plan encumbrance, because I think that through different conversations about what the strategic plan consultant might cost, it seemed like 7,000 wasn't going to maybe be enough. We don't, obviously have anything really going on with that yet, but I think with the warrant for the study, the space planning study being up for a town vote this year, I'm not sure how you all feel about foregoing the Collins Center study, which I believe is supposed to be a precursor kind of thing anyway. And it sounds like that the person we were hoping to use there isn't there anymore. So we're wanting to maybe move, like clear out that encumbrance and move that money aside to be earmarked for the strategic plan consultant.
We want to have a motion and then a discussion. Carol?
Yes, I would move to unencumber the 6,000 for Collins Center, remove that from the encumbrance list and add that 6,000 to the strategic plan consultant line and making that 13,000.
Discussion on that topic? No? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, well, take the roll call then. All in favor of the motion, that Carol, as Carol just stated it, Anna,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jay.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Good.
Thank you. And I'm just noticing that I fixed the award amount on the front page of my director's report, but did not catch it on the back side of the financial report. So that amount for the second installment is that 24,000, not the 33,000
Okay,
for state aid.
right. Okay.
And once that hits our accounts, it will show up on this report, but it has not actually hit our accounts yet. For the trust funds, we had disbursements. Let me get to my page, sorry. We had a Weller disbursement for YA books from Baker and Taylor, which is a small number of small order. Hatch had some spending for YA and adult fiction from Baker and Taylor as well. The permanent donation fund dispersed $2,900 for adult fiction from Baker and Taylor and for Brain Fuse, which is an online tutoring program that we previously had grant funded. So we're excited to kind of keep that, especially while school is still sort of weird and kids are in that catch up kind of mode. I think if we do a bit more promotion, it'll get a lot of use. So we're excited about that. Okay, yeah, just checking myself. I have my trust fund plan request later in the evening. So any discussion about the financial report?
Carol, did you want to just talk about the trust fund reporting, or Kim, did you want to say anything about on how we're going to be reporting or possibly changing the trust fund reporting?
I'm happy to just point out that Kim has, really worked hard on this. It's really quite confusing. There are a lot of different pockets, whether it was something that was included in a request the previous year but not spent, and then there's interest from the current year that might or might not be added back in, and then there's what's still available to be encumbered or spent. And it really is, seems like a simple thing, and it really isn't.
Right.
For now, I probably, at some point, Kim, it would be great to just talk with you and Jenna. Maybe we could do a Zoom just to make sure that all the things are between the request columns and the monthly report columns jive. I had some questions about it, but right now it seems like a confusing way to go about it. Maybe we should just sort of talk about it, not in a meeting, and then you can report if there's anything to be changed. Maybe there won't be.
Yes, on the monthly report itself, I don't know that there are major changes we were talking about. It's more the planned spending and how that happens, which I have later in the old business, since we had talked about it last time. But that is where I definitely have a lot of thoughts. I don't have as many thoughts about the monthly report itself. So
Kim, I was just going to say as a suggestion, we have library trust funds April as a header for this. But then there's an asterisk, which, indicates it includes deposits for the month of March.
Mhm.
And does it include, maybe we should say what the dates are for the disbursements as well. They're from March 1, I would assume. I don't know if they go beyond March 31st and go into April, or, you know what I mean, more current ones.
I think that's what it's saying, but that's what Jenna wants to convey with the date ending there, because that's the last bills that are included on this report. So that,
So it's deposits and disbursements made March 1,
Yes.
March 31. Okay. So essentially, this is a snapshot as for the month of March.
we're
Yeah,
always behind on it, which is why we try to do it as close to the meeting as possible, so she can get in everything possible. But let me double check with her about adding the date to make sure it is very clear, like for all of the columns, when is the last bill or invoice or whatever that was received that we are putting on this document, because I think that would be really helpful in the future.
yeah. I mean, if it's a balance sheet as of March 31st, then you could say this is as, instead of saying April, you can say library trust funds as of March 31st, and then under beginning balance, you could say as of, February 28th or whatever. And then you know where you're going with all of this. And
So it sounds like it would
But
be a
it's-
good idea for Carol and Kim and Jenna to kind of, get their heads together on, what columns would make the most sense. It is a complicated reporting
I
job.
think right
And
now, though, I'm hesitant to spend a lot more time on it right now because we're at the fiscal close, and Jenna had to pause working on the contracts for Wi-Fi to answer a lot of these questions this past week. And where it doesn't.
It can
totally
wait.
make a difference
It can
either
wait.
way, I would love that because I think once she's here
Okay.
full time,
that's no problem.
this is her first big project for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be, continue to be looked at as we
Yes.
move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so keep going, Kim.
Oh, yes, sorry. Okay. So statistics, we were down 9% from December and January. Again, not unexpected based on the fact that January was when we were, February was when we were kind of still reeling from COVID or Omicron, I should say. Our website usage was up a bit and visits and computer use were down, which wasn't super surprising. Let's see. And then our virtual attendance was extremely high. So that was good. But I don't think that, I don't know what to expect with that because we've gone to virtual, and sorry, I'm catching myself up here because I'm realizing I still had December to January, but it's not, it's January to February that's listed here. Sorry about that. So I'm not sure really what to expect going forward with programs because we're in this place of offering some in-person programming, some is a hybrid. I'm just not sure what to expect from people, although we had really great turnout in some of our March programs that were in person. So hopefully that's a good sign. I think that the program J was really instrumental in getting the Brian O'Donovan, was very popular. So I think people will come out, just not totally sure what to expect going forward. But it was nice to see a bump in our programs, during that month of February.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
May I?
Anna?
Okay, yeah, a question in the comment. Question is the 526 number, does that include the Friends programs as well, right?
Yeah, that's all of our programming.
Okay, so that not children is a different number, right? Okay, Friends and whatever other, okay.
Yeah.
And young adults is also in there, or is it with children's?
No, young adults has its own line.
Okay.
They had 6 programs with 41.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, and the comment regarding, whether to go back to in person, the numbers are going up now, as I don't know if you've heard, but they're everywhere. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but so many places are considering extending, offering both hybrid and in person. I know that Wi-Fi issues prevents the library from, we cannot offer hybrid, but it's something to consider once the Wi-Fi is fixed. So something just to think about.
Yeah, we will definitely be considering it. I've definitely been paying attention, and that's part of what makes me unsure what to expect for the next couple months. I was really hopeful that we would be able to move to in person as summer came around, and we didn't have, I think we were hopeful that surges were happening mostly in the winter, and that maybe they would be done for a couple months, but it's really not trending that way.
Gay, you wanna,
Oh, I can answer some of that in saying that all of our programs that are in person also go out with a statement telling the people who register that we will shift and send them a Zoom link if numbers go down. And additionally, I am going to be doing some kind of training sometime this summer with Needham Cable so that I can use their equipment so that we can do hybrid from the community room. It's going to require, I think, an additional piece of equipment on our part, but with any luck, I should be able to use their cameras and everything else and put it out on Zoom with a live program.
Yeah, and I think at this point, we really need to be training more people to operate hybrid meetings and things, because we've been relying on Gay Allen's help for 2 years to run all of the outside meetings, the Friends meetings, the LFN, and that's not really sustainable for our desk schedule. So we're going to need to start training people. And so likewise, when she gets trained on the Needham channel equipment, we'll want more people to be involved so that other people can run programs as well. And I believe, just quickly, there's a she misspoke. When if the numbers go up, we would obviously,
right.
we would, just to correct that for Faith.
okay, sounds like a great plan. Anna?
Yeah, quick follow-up. I think that we need to consider the hybrid option beyond numbers. It just as an added service. And maybe it's not going to be for every program, but maybe, I don't know, based on capacity, et cetera. But we need to consider, because there are many folks out there that are immunocompromised. They're actually, the library reached, programs from the library reached, out of state folks, out of the country folks. So there are many benefits to increase the visibility of the library by providing online programming. So just something, maybe we have to be selective about it, but I see it as a long-term issue.
Totally. I think that's where we're going to have different equipment, because the OWL can't really support large programs if they have a large in-person attendance. They're more for like a small board meeting, something like that. So getting trained on the equipment from Needham Channel, and hopefully also being able to borrow that equipment will be a big help in being able to do that, because I agree, it is really nice that we can meet people where they are. So what else trying to do?
Okay, is there more things on the director's report, or are we moving now to new business?
I believe we're moving to new business, unless anyone has other questions about the report.
Good. Okay, so we have
One
plan to do.
question.
Yes, Carol.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I should know this, but I don't. On this statistical report, right below registration in the second group of boxes, lines, what is transfers?
It is not something we actually count anymore, and I was going to have them just drop off. Transfers is things that are just going to other libraries, which is literally what our CERC number is. Things that go to non-Needham patrons. So
Loan to them, or it could be returns, or it could be anything?
that we sent out.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's kind of already recorded in our CERC numbers. And as you can see, there's not been tracking for it.
Yeah.
in the past 2 years. I don't,
Yeah.
you know, so this is something that I am actually working on changing the format for and changing what we're looking at so that it matches our ARIS state reporting. But that will not happen until after the fiscal year changeover. So we're just starting to talk about what do we want to have tracked. Like certainly the website hits, but transfers is one that just, we don't even track anymore. So
Okay,
clean it up.
good question, Carol.
Sorry, well, now it's irrelevant. Now that I finally asked my question.
Okay, so new business, we have a recognition of our trustee past member, Rick Hardy, and Anna is going to do that and then open it up to anybody who wants to add a comment. Anna?
Thank you, Kay. I'm going to read a few words that some of us gathered about Rick. Rick Hardy was elected to the Board of Trustees of the Needham Public Library in April of 2011. He also served in the Library Foundation of Needham. He was known by friends and colleagues by embracing his role with dedication, enthusiasm, and heart. Rick was one of the 3 trustees that was involved with library administration in the development and implementation of the 5-year strategic plan, which just ended in 2021. Rick also co-chaired Needham Connects from the beginning when it was known as Diversity and Inclusion Book Club. This is a collaboration, as you may remember, with the Needham Diversity Initiative and the Needham Human Rights Committee, with the mission to engage the community in conversation with the purpose of fostering inclusion and empathy. Rick was a colleague, a friend, a neighbor for some of us, and someone that we can always count on him to send us a link about a library somewhere in the US or abroad. At this time, I would like to open it up for anyone who wants to say a few words or remember Rick in any way.
Comment?
Just want to say that
Tom?
I just want to say that he was a true gentleman and a good friend, and I will miss him, and I think we will.
Yes, Carol?
Me too. It's, it's really heartbreaking that he's gone, and he was really a wonderful human, aside from really a devoted member of this board, and in so many ways. And so it's a tragic loss for all of us, I think.
It is. I agree that he'll be really deeply missed. Thank you, Anna and Tom and Carol.
I think, Rob, do you have your hand up?
Oh, Rob?
I was gonna say, Rick, I kind of see him as a bit of a role model. When I came on the board 3 years ago, Rick was one of the people who really reached out and talked to me about what the library board was about, but also he led by example. When I came on, he was chair for that year, and he was efficient with his meetings, but he was also always patient and moving things forward and looking for ways to make things work and bring people together. So I'll miss him very much.
Thank you, Rob. Anyone further?
With that, then I'll invite you to observe a minute of silence in the memory of Rick Hardy. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So we now need to discuss the process by which we will fill the vacancy, trustee vacancy. I think Rob has been in touch with Marianne Cooley and maybe can give us an overview, update on that.
Yeah, so I'd reached out to Marianne as well as to the town. We had to get in the notice within 1 month of the vacancy, which we have done within that deadline. Marianne was traveling recently, so she just got back to me yesterday, and I will be speaking to her tomorrow. It should be a relatively straightforward process where the town advertises the vacancy, the interim vacancy, through a number of different forums. But I will reach out and coordinate with Kay so that everybody on the board is aware of this and receives a copy of the posting as soon as it's available. More recently, there was another vacancy on the Parks and Rec Commission. So the select board has very recently gone through this process and is recently familiar with it. But Marianne Cooley will kind of head it up from the select board side. And the trustees and the select board will cooperatively select the interim trustee. And that person will sit until next year's election.
So one question I have in my mind that maybe those members of the trustees here who were involved in this the last time, how do we have special meetings set up once if we receive candidates who express interest, then what happens next? Tom?
The last time we got a number of people, and then we arranged with the select board what they wanted to do. And at that time, the select board said they'll have one meeting, one person attend the screening sessions. And as you all, as Jay and Rob and Kay know, we had you come in and we talked to you all, and you gave your pitch, and then we talked about what you think you had to offer and all that, and then the select board had already told us before. I don't know if it's a different select board now. There's only one member is still on it that was on it, that's 5 years ago. But it was the situation is that they would say they would go whatever we wanted to do, whatever we came up with, whoever we picked, they would go along with it. And we've done this. I've done this many times. I was first appointed to fill a vacancy, in 1976, and a lot of other people have been. We've had several replacement vacancies at that time, and it's always been a little dynamic every time. The only one there was any not controversy, but there was discussion was 1 year, and it turned out that the vote, believe the selectmen didn't all vote for one person, and we didn't all vote for one person. We both split our votes in that person, and so one person was selected. But that was the only time it was really close.
So would the interview process take the form of a special meeting in which various candidates show up in,
We would have to do that because it was, if four of us gather in our name, we have to post it as a meeting, as otherwise a violation of the open meeting law. The meeting is open, the people who were attending, the different candidates, all the candidates could have come in at once, but you can't go to executive session for something like that, I don't believe.
Carol?
As I recall, we did call a special meeting just for the interviewing at this most recent time, and there were a lot of applications. It was wonderful, really.
There were 9 applicants.
At least, and maybe 1 or 2 dropped out or decided it wouldn't be for them after they were interviewed. or, maybe once they found more out about it, what it involved, but
We interviewed 9 people.
But the first thing that we did, I think, was to have a small group create a list of questions. And so we asked the very same questions of each candidate, which I think is important to do it that way. It's fairer. And that at the time, the select board representative to work on this with us was John Boulian. And so he sat in on those interviews. So it was all of us plus a member of the select board at the interviews, but he at least really deferred to the trustees to make a
Then
choice.
At a board, at a board of selectmen meeting at town hall, we did, that's when the final vote was
That's right.
taken.
They have to approve, yeah.
They do, okay.
Well, we have to approve together. We all have to vote on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the vote, the library board and the select board vote at the same meeting, at a select board meeting, is that
They
what I'm
have,
hearing?
they have 5 sitting members and we have 6.
Hmm,
So
okay.
if it ever came, it never has come to a controversy like this, but if it did, we they realized that we could outvote them. But the select board at the time was very positive and we're very supportive of since it was a library, what we wanted to do.
Well, my one, sorry, Carol, you had something further?
Nope, that's it.
No, Anna?
Yeah, so I want to give you just a little bit of background on my side. I was the one who, I was one of the 9 that got in, and I was the one that was appointed. So I don't recall, frankly, if when the letter goes out is published, if there is a description which would be helpful to have so that folks know what they're getting themselves into, monthly meetings, et cetera, or if there is a job description. I think there's something in the website, but something that is perhaps more updated so that we, so we can weed out folks that are just looking into and so that folks that are really interested. And also the other thing is, when I applied, I remember very distinctly that it was on the condition that I would be, that I had to be available to run the following, for the election. Otherwise, not just serve for the duration of the remaining of the year, but is that I was also going to be running. So that's something that has to be very clear when we in the communications to the public. So those are the 2 things.
We asked that of every candidate.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the letter that goes out before they come to us, so that in what I don't know what it's called, like job, anyway.
The posting of the
The
vacancy.
posting, there you go.
Well,
Thank you.
that would refer someone to the town bylaw, which sets the role of the library trustees.
Yeah, it's not really, there may be limitations on how expansive you can be in this posting. But it would be great if we made ourselves available and made it, had some reference that there were people to talk with about it, or, there was some
Right.
resources. So
Provide
nobody
some kind
wasted
of,
their time or ours.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully
I-
we'll get to see the posting.
I don't think we have to go into too much detail because it's that's what the last time it worked. 9 candidates, 4 of them are now sitting in the board of trustees.
Right, but it is good, I think Anna has a very good point, to at least do a brief listing of responsibilities and the fact that you would need to run for re-election in the following year. I think that's worth putting in, just so, it weeds out. Rob?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when I speak to Marianne tomorrow, I will emphasize that and try to ensure that that they send us a copy before it goes out, so we can, at least have a succinct description of the responsibilities other than meeting once a month, because obviously it's more than just that. And then also maybe indicate in the posting that this candidate would be expected to run in 2023.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Okay, so I don't think we need any vote or motion on this topic. So unless does anyone else have something they want to add on that at this point? No? Okay. So now we'll go on to the trustee assignments. We have the MacGyver lecture series, the Arts and Exhibition Committee, and we're discussing a possible strategic plan working group. So I guess is this something we need a vote on? Or is this, does anybody know? No. Okay. So for the MacGyver, my understanding from MacGyver is that it's usually the vice chair. And Anna, as vice chair, are you interested and willing? I see a thumbs up, yes. Good, that's great. That's good to know. And for the Arts and Exhibition Committee, I'm not doing it this year because I'm chairing, and it's possible Carol is interested and willing to do it for a year.
I am. I think maybe you do need to vote on a committee chair because it's going to be like a subcommittee of the.
It
board.
is a subcommittee, that's
We
correct.
have to do
That's
that,
true.
yes, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
and I think
MacGyver does not need a vote.
voted,
Is it-
yeah.
Okay, so on in that case, I could ask for a motion to appoint Carol as the chair of the Arts and Exhibition Subcommittee.
So moved.
So moved.
And
Second,
wait, a second, okay. Now I'll take a roll call. In favor, Anna,
aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and Jay.
Aye.
Okay, good, passed. Okay, thank you, Carol, and thank you, Anna, for that. So we also had discussion of possible strategic plan working group, which would be appointed by Kim. This would be her trustee advisory group as she moves forward with the strategic plan. Kim, did you have anything that you want to speak to on that topic?
I don't think I appoint people. I think it was more to have the discussion about who's interested.
Okay, yeah, we don't have to do that tonight, but
I do want to get, I would love to get a small group going, whatever is not going to be considered a quorum, so that we can meet and move forward, start gathering names. And
okay.
So that's kind of what we're looking at.
So is there anyone here who would like to express interest in working in that group? Rob? Okay.
You talking
Sorry,
about
this was the,
The strategic plan group that would advise with Kim.
I had been planning to do that from before and was
Yes,
happy to continue to participate.
good. Okay, so Rob and Jay, definites. Would anyone else be interested in participating? We could have a third person if needed.
Can I just ask, what is a quorum right now if you're only 6?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good
might
question.
need to,
Tom?
need to
Oh, no,
wait.
it's still 4.
Is it? Yeah.
I'm getting the impression that some people learned their lesson around the last strategic plan, which accounts for the lack of volunteers.
Also,
I
I
ju-
think if we're at this point just trying to gather information about who's out there, maybe 3 of us is fine. And then once we start the work. we
That's
can-
right. This is really just the preliminary phase, really, I suppose. Even if it's just me, Rob, and Kim, we would share information and there would be room for other people.
Maybe you can force the
Yeah.
new person into it so that they really get to the library.
In fact,
Anna?
the replacement should be somebody that has deep experience with strategic planning.
Anna?
Yeah, actually, I distinctly remember our last meeting, someone mentioned, to remind ourselves, trustees, that this is the director's strategic plan,
Yep.
right? So I think that's why we're trying to make sure we are conveying, Kim, that we are willing and ready, but we're just kind of holding on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we definitely can count on us, so.
And Dimitri?
So a few months ago with Rick and I talked about it, and I gathered some information for him with some firms that help with strategic planning for public libraries. So I can certainly share that info with
That'd be
Rob,
great.
Jay, and Kim, and you can go from there.
Does that need a vote?
I don't think so.
Working
Since
group,
it's
yeah.
not really, it's really, Kim, it's your working group. So, and I did want to say that I'm willing, I didn't want to jump in case there are other trustees who want to do it. I'm certainly interested, if it turns out that it would be good to have a third person on board to have, or have my participation.
Okay.
I'm willing and interested, so, okay. So, any, Carol?
I just wanted to say, I think, am I right that we need to appoint, as a group, we need to appoint our representative to the LFN, the trustee representative, which normally is the outgoing
Oh,
chair,
yes,
if Rob's willing.
Or to the
That's right.
LFN?
Yes, it would begin in
Yes.
June, at the June meeting is the beginning of their year.
Absolutely. I was expecting to sort of join as the liaison.
okay.
If
So
you're a board,
LFN,
you're not a liaison, but you are a board. I mean, you're
You're ex
Okay.
officio board director,
Voting
board of
board
directors.
member.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
so do we need to
absolutely.
vote on that one, do you think?
I don't know whether we need to vote on it, but I guess,
I'm not sure we have authority. Could that's more of an LFN matter, right? Because it's
no,
there.
we appoint, we appoint
Okay.
who we want. Could be anybody from our board, that there's a chair reserved for a.
Just to have it official,
Yeah,
I'll move that we appoint Rob to the LFN board.
second?
I second.
Okay, thanks, Carol. And okay, roll call is Jay,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Okay, Rob is appointed to the LFN board.
Welcome.
And just one thing back to the strategic plan, probably Kim, you, Rob, and I should talk at some point to figure out next steps in terms of, having preliminary conversations with Maxine or anybody else.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good. Okay, so I'm just looking at we're on to collection development policy update where Kim has some changes to the policy that she'd like to present.
So as I think we've been discussing here and there have been a number of challenges happening, and I'm sure you've seen it in the news all over the place because you pay attention to library news, probably. And I know many people who don't have heard all about this. So if you haven't, there have been a high number of challenges, way more per year in insert whatever time periods than is typical. And most of them are targeting Black authors, BIPOC authors, LGBTQ stories. And it's really, it's eating up a lot of time and energy at different libraries to fight these challenges because once you trigger that process of a reconsideration form, we have our procedure for that. But our policy was a little bit lacking, as are honestly every library is going through this conversation right now. So it's not like we had a bad policy. It's just now they're recommending ways to be more specific about your policy. And that's what I'm sort of looking to do. I did have little cleanup language here and there, but not big sweeping changes for most of it. I provided a document that shows my additions in red, strikeouts, and then the last couple pages of the document are just as it would read if approved that way. And of course, I'm presenting it today. I believe you can't vote on it today. You would have to vote on it next time if it's ready to go by then anyway. So the big sweeping change that I'm looking to make, it's not that sweeping, I guess I shouldn't say, but is to change who can make a challenge to a book in our library. Our collection development policy is already highly focused on serving our community first. It defines that we look at community needs to pick what we want in the library. It talks about how we kind of go above and beyond to get a book that we don't have for residents. So it already has that structure, and a lot of our other policies and things that we offer in the library you kind of get some priority if you're a resident. And so this is sort of, is in line with that. So what I'm looking to do is add on page 4 are the biggest changes. Let me start with, the statement that the responsibility of the reading habits of children rests with the child's parent or legal guardian. Selection of materials for collection is not to be inhibited by the possibility that items may inadvertently come into the possession of children. I think that's really important to add into our policy. So it's very clear right from the start. And that material in question will remain available for circulation during the review process. I feel like that's also very important because part of the challenges being made, I think often the effort is to get it off the shelves for whatever period of time. And then to change or to adjust it so that we're specifying that the person bringing the request for reconsideration must be a resident of Needham. And adding in some timetables as well, because that's another area that libraries are learning from not having, is that this could be hanging over you indefinitely if you don't specify time periods for people to send in an appeal and things. So
where's the time period?
So that is in this section about the reconsideration of library materials on page 3, but the text that you're looking for is actually on page 4 as a continuation of that section. And it's C, that the library director will review and consult with staff responsible for that collection area. And then we'll decide whether or not the item should be retained and inform the resident of the decision within 15 business days of receiving the request for reconsideration. And then they have 10 business days to notify the Board of Trustees of a written appeal, with the written appeal that they want to appeal my decision. Then the trustees would review the appeals of the director's decision and use the same factors to inform their decision, which is kind of spelled out earlier what those factors are. And that the decision of the board is final. So that's the big thing that I would like to see us adopt.
Anna?
I think this is great, Kim. I support what you're doing here. One question I have, because you're specifically talking about Needham residents, where would you fit Boston families whose kids go to attend Needham schools?
No.
There's 150 families, Boston families whose kids attend Needham's public schools, and they may use the library.
So they can challenge at their local library just like anyone else, and they could challenge at the school or whatever the school.
So they will, but I'm thinking if they were to come after school to use the library, and just a scenario. So
Yeah.
They're not residents, but they use they're part of the town.
No,
So what, I mean, and understand the visitors and people who work in town, I get that, but I just don't know if there's a need to specify or at least address that in 150 families from the medical program are not going to be able to have a recourse.
Challenge, right? Because they're not residents, just like anybody else who uses our library on a regular basis. The whole point is, if you're, a taxpayer in your community or whatever that it looks like, that is where you can request challenges to have things removed off the shelf. It does not, the whole point of this really is that it does not make sense to allow someone to tie up a community's library if they are not part of that community and part of the tax base for that community. If you pay rent or you pay a mortgage, you live here, you reside here, you are part of our community in a different way. And like our tax dollars go to my salary, which is then spent, like my time is then spent to address these considerations. So if you live in a different community, you can certainly have a challenge for whatever book you have an issue with at that library.
Just to be clear, Metco pays for each kid that attends Needham. they pay to the district, just so that we know.
They pay
So
to
they
the
are,
school
they're
district,
paying.
right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so they, and
So
the
the
district's
school
part,
library,
the
they pay.
district is part of the town. So just, I just want, I'm not disputing it. I'm just want to make sure we're very
Yeah.
clear and we have everything airtight
Totally.
to
So
consider.
I will
That's all.
say, legal has looked at this too. They feel comfortable with saying resident. The town is really supportive of it. I think it's the same thing that applies, because if you're saying, oh, but I come to the library every day, or, anyone could kind of say those things. I do understand that you're paying into the school system, but I think that means your rights are limited to what the school has to offer and not necessarily
Okay.
the town's library. That would be my feeling on it, but
I have Carol, go ahead.
I was just trying to recall, who is entitled to get a Needham library card, public library card? Isn't it people who also work in town? And
well,
does it
we're in
make
Minuteman,
sense?
so anyone in the state can get a Minuteman library card.
I don't mean a Minuteman, I mean a Needham card.
Yeah, but it works at all of the, the libraries in the network, so
But how would you get a Needham to give you a library card? What would you have to do?
anyone who lives in the state can get a Needham library card if they come in and they show that they live in the state.
I see.
Yeah,
Is that recent?
I didn't know that. Yeah.
that's the network policy.
Rob?
I mean, in a perfect world, it'd be good to have, anybody who's a user of the library be able to challenge based on the fact that they're a user. However, given, kind of the nature of these challenges that are coming in, I feel like that just creates a loophole.
Yeah.
And whatever definition we have has to be kind of ironclad. Resident has the advantage of being immediately established. Either you are or you aren't. There's no way to use it as a loophole. So that's my thought, is that it's a pretty good way to handle it.
Tom?
Yeah, there are organizations that are challenging these things, and they're not residents of the town. And therefore our situation would, make it, we're not trying to exclude anybody, but we're trying to make the process easier for, well, let's put it this way, we're trying to exclude people. We're trying to exclude people who aren't members of the community.
We're trying to, we don't exclude anyone from using the library at all, ever.
For using the library, but for reconsideration.
For reconsideration, and I actually would think that we should add language that what kind of documentation people need to produce to show that they are a resident. For example, when I'm trying to think of documentation, so some kind of usually like an electric bill, a lease, a tax bill. So we might want to have a short list of documents that would be required.
People could.
Yeah, or one of the following.
I think they used to take a electric bill.
We
Didn't
have
they-
our, the Minuteman standards for what we can accept for getting a library card. I'm not sure. I feel like there are people who probably live in Needham that might have issues getting official documentation, and I don't want it to be, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that one and
Okay.
get legal again.
That's worth thinking about, because
Yeah.
if we're really talking about, a legal challenge, we would need to have some kind of criteria for what constitutes a resident.
Well, it's not a legal challenge, right? It's a request for reconsideration. So it's not the same thing as like a legal challenge to something.
Yeah, okay, well, that was
Internal
maybe not
process.
the right wording,
Yeah.
but,
But it is, I would have to ask legal their opinion on whether we could ask someone to produce documentation if they said they were a resident. I would hope that they would have a library card that we could look at and just see.
but that's, as we
But
just
they might
discussed,
not.
anybody in the state can have a Needham library card.
Well, yeah, but their
Okay?
library card says whether what address they are at. So
Jay?
I have a question, just so that I'm clear. We're talking about the standard by which somebody could object to whether a book remains in the library.
correct.
So there's a lot of talk about the standard for who can object. What is the standard? Is there a standard for what determines the decision about whether the book, I mean, I don't know that I could ever support removing a book from the library, but is there a standard that governs the determination that's clear?
Yeah, our collection development policy. And so it does spell out like, and I did add a bunch of language into that specific section here. So we will review the request, consult with staff responsible for that collection area. The director will also consider the request within the context of the library's goals, the reference statements of American Library Association, referenced being there on the first page of our document, selection criteria, collection assessment data, and this policy. Because this policy, the rest of this policy really spells out why we add things to the collection and what our whole goal is.
Okay.
in providing the collection. So it's kind of circular, but.
And those goals are updated to reflect diversity and equity and inclusion and all those.
Yeah, they
standards.
were actually like, it already said that that the trustees had voted to adopt the library's Bill of Rights, which is a ALA, like American Library Association, a document, as well as the American Film and Video Association's Freedom to View. Oh, but thank you. That does bring me actually to a good point. I did want to, as part of this discussion and voting, add, there's a document that is most often referenced now. I think that was published after this document had last been revised, from ALA, that is the Freedom to Read document, and it is linked
Okay.
from this. And it says these are the basis for the library's material selection policy. That was already the language that was there. And we have a whole section on goals and guidelines, and the goals really are to, there's enrich and support recreational informational needs, representing different viewpoints on a subject, reflect the problems, aspirations, attitudes, and ideals of a pluralistic society, support business, cultural, recreational, and civic activities in the community. Currently it is stimulate self-understanding and growth. I was hoping to change that to promote, because that.
And I have an addition to that
Yeah.
list.
Yes.
Yeah.
And enhance job-related knowledge and skills, and increase the knowledge of and participation in affairs of the community, et cetera. And then Kay had one that she wanted to add as well.
Yeah, since we're going through that list,
Yeah.
so here's one that I'd like to add, and this will, when we vote on it next month, hopefully we'll have that in there as part of it. So I think we need to add to that short list, one that, here's where, when I read this policy, I realized we don't have the word literature in the entire collection development policy anywhere. So I think that we probably all agree that one important role of the library is to foster an appreciation of literature as an art form, sort of a arts for art's sake. So I would add this sentence, possibly at the third or the fourth point, to encourage the understanding of literature as an art form. And it also, adding this would also give us some additional protection in case of a reconsideration request, because a book or other material can be considered a form of artistic oppression. And if we are encouraging the artistic expression, if we're encouraging the understanding of literature as an art form, as one of our criteria for our collection policy, then that gives us an extra leg to stand on if a book is challenged.
Is the right word understanding of literature or appreciation?
I could go either way on that. Understanding of literature as an art form, appreciation of literature as an art form, either one works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, as we see these challenges that are really happening through a lot of organized groups, or one person challenging a book in multiple communities that don't live in, it just is tying up so much time, where, that's just pulling time from things like strategic planning potentially, or whatever it is. But I think that what we see as the big thing is that these challenges are really attempts to violate freedom of speech. And so I think about that as the overarching issue that doesn't even have to be in here, right? Like that's, you know, wanting us to, I don't know. It's the whole thing. I feel very passionately about it.
Yes,
We don't have all the time, but
I think we
Tom?
all do.
yeah.
yes, we all do. Tom?
Well, one thing I have is, we haven't got to the other thing I want to talk about yet, but you have to understand literature to appreciate it, and you have to appreciate it to understand it.
Okay.
I appreciate lots of things that I don't understand.
We're just encouraging
And
the.
I understand a lot of things I don't appreciate.
Yeah, that's
I have a-
true. We want
I have
to
a-
force people
I
to
have a
appreciate.
question. I do have a question right now, which is, the reconsideration policy. That's stuff in our collection. How do we deal with Hoopla and Libby?
Who, what?
How do we deal with Hoopla and Libby? If someone would, because they're part of our collection, right? I mean, you hit Hoopla and the thing that, Libby on my app, and it comes up Needham Free Public Library.
Yep.
And, let's put it this way, a lot of the stuff in Libby and Hoopla would not, fit some of our standards. And if somebody questioned something like that, a mature graphic novel,
Mhm.
would we, if for some reason we thought that was a legitimate choice,
Mhm.
how could we get that, off of Hoopla?
So we can turn off titles.
You
So
can
we
turn off titles in
have that
Hoopla?
control. Yep.
We do have that.
So this is, so it applies exactly the same.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very good.
So
So
only,
Yeah.
that'd be,
for Libby specifically, and so Overdrive, if it was an advantage title, we could potentially not have it. If it's part of the larger collection, we would have to have a conversation as a network. But we could certainly entertain a request.
Okay, good question.
but it
Carol?
would still have to go through us though, right?
Us as in
Well,
me first
trustees.
and then you.
Trustees, if it got to that.
If it got to that point,
If they
yeah.
challenged your decision,
Mhm.
then, their appeal is to
Yeah.
us.
Although, yeah, I think with a collection that is, or an item that is just part of the general collection of Overdrive, I'm not sure what we would be able to do about that. That would probably be something at the network level. We would have to agree that we don't want to see, or see if we could turn off specifically at Needham for our patron, if that was something that I felt like we would do. But with our advantage titles, we have much more control over that. So I don't think there's a situation where the Board of Trustees could say, we want to remove this item from Libby if it's not one of our advantage titles, because I don't know how we actually can do that.
Carol?
I had a bunch of picky little things, which I really would rather not go into during meeting time, but maybe could just send along. But I did have some things that really are more of substance. I wondered whether it would make sense to try to combine 10, Roman 10 and Roman 11, the reconsideration of library materials and request to add materials, because a lot of it is sort of duplicative. And if we didn't want to do that, then I think we need to add to 11 the procedure that is outlined in 10 for, the process, which isn't there. So that's something to think about. And I also, you use the word selectors, or, I think you need to use that as a defined term, which you could do way back, like in number,
Yeah, in 4, maybe where it says library staff make collection development decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
You need a, maybe you need to make that a defined term, or else you need to think of something else to call it, or I don't know
Yeah, we
what.
could just say, you know, staff who purchase in that area. That would be fine too.
But I mean, you have the right to delegate to those people, and those people are then something special because you've delegated. It's not just that they're there or they work at the library or whatever. It's the person you've delegated this job to select in that area.
So in section 3, it just refers to those people who are delegated to as staff members.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
well, you can, you know, delegate to staff members. But then later on, you're talking about, you know, selectors. So-
right. So would it make more sense to remove selectors and change that to staff members, or kind of rework the document to define that those staff members are
Call them selectors.
heretofore referred to as?
You know, just capitalize it and just, you know, put it in quotes, selectors, and then wherever else it comes up later, it will be easier, it'll be shorter. You might want to do that.
Yeah.
The other thing is in section 6, you use the word appropriate at the end of weeding, no, otherwise no longer appropriate. I don't like that term. I think that that's a kind of weak wording. It's what was in the old policy.
Sorry, where were you on this?
And number 6 under weeding.
Yep.
The last.
This is,
word. And I think
that actually is not a change. That's just the text that has been there, but
I
I'm
know.
happy to change it.
I know, I think it really, that's not a really good word to
Yeah.
use. I'm thinking maybe within the selection goals and guidelines is what you ought to say there. Maybe we ought to change it to that rather than appropriate. No longer within the selection goals and guidelines.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Because that really is like not a defined,
Right.
appropriate is like in the mind of the beholder.
It's objective, just like, yeah.
And then in number 5, in the first paragraph, we're talking about what I just wonder if maybe we need, as far as requests, need to add a reference to the sections 10 and 11 right there. You know, refer to that as to how you can object. I mean, really, reconsideration is really kind of a euphemism for objecting to existing library materials. But anyway, maybe we should have a reference in there in paragraph 5, first paragraph, to the particulars about.
Yeah, to see, yeah. Because the later sections spell out what the process really is.
Yeah, I actually request is 11, it's not 10. What else did I have? And maybe
So
I.
Carol, did you want to, if you had other smaller
I will go
changes
in.
and suggestions, you want to forward those over to Kim?
I will, and I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that's actually of substance and not just little stuff like that. You know,
Tom?
technology.
I have one question here that under 9, request to add materials. At one time, I thought we had a policy that if there were 3 requests for an item, we'd buy an additional copy. What happened to that? Is that
That's
was that
actually,
ever the policy?
no, that's just a collection development tool that we have, is that we look at a report that gets sent to us from Minuteman that tells us what's really popular.
Oh, I thought at one time that if you had 3, hits on that you would order a copy of it.
Yeah, that is currently our collection development procedure, but I wouldn't want to make that a
But it's
policy.
not part of the policy.
I would not make that part of the policy, no.
I used to teach collection development.
Yeah.
So I do remember it's a interesting situation, and I think
Yes.
this looks pretty good. This looks very good, actually.
That
Yeah.
could deplete our budget really quick if we had to do that every time.
I really think these are really important improvements to this policy, and particularly at this time.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can, I know there's a whole process, so if you do have changes, I'd love to see them. I don't know what the process is. Can I send out ahead of time for review. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I want it. I would love to get it voted upon at the next meeting, specifically because this is not the type of policy you want to change after you get a challenge for something. And because of the situation we're currently in, I'd love to have this like shored up real quick, like at least with the residents and things. That part of it, we can always revisit other language later.
Yeah, I think that you can revise according to the, the discussion here tonight and send it back out to us. I don't see any reason not to.
And then people could respond to
Yeah.
you directly,
You.
even though
Right.
they can't discuss it with each other
Yes.
online. Then it, it should be, maybe you can react to that if there's something important, and we can vote on the,
To be ready to vote
We
at the
can
next
kind of-
meeting.
We can vote on it sort of the way we do with the minutes, like voted upon with the, like if there were things we discussed at the next meeting, we could say, okay, we're gonna add in these revisions and we're gonna vote on it as we just revised it, kind of, right?
we have done that
Okay,
in the
I just
past.
wanna know the process.
With small changes, at least,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
One other question, in the request to add materials.
Mhm.
And this is almost procedural, but requests may be instead be fulfilled by the patron by borrowing from another Minuteman library or beyond the network when available. And so that would, like right now, I understand to get the Commonwealth catalog, right?
Yep.
You can't get anything there if Minuteman has it in the system, right?
Correct, but we also then have,
No?
yes. I mean, this doesn't matter, I guess, for what you're asking, but we're not just limited to what's in Massachusetts.
Right,
The
okay,
ILL
but-
system that gets us the continental United States. So if someone has it somewhere, we can try to get it for you.
Even if we
Well,
have
if
one,
we-
even if
if it
we
was
have
in
one,
the network-
even if we have one in Minuteman.
If it was in the network, they wouldn't need to ask us to get it, so we're saying we'll try to get it for you in Minuteman or beyond if necessary.
Okay, so in the interest of time, maybe we should refer that to the next meeting. And unless anybody has anything further? No? Okay, so we have the format. We wanted to briefly discuss the format of the upcoming meetings, whether I'm not sure. So the question is whether we want to continue to meet by Zoom, as we're doing now, or to start meeting in person at some point in the not too distant future, or do people, and I guess we could, or hybrid, which I guess is not possible. Well, since the library doesn't have Wi-Fi, that means a hybrid meeting can't take place in the library until we have Wi-Fi. We would have to do it somewhere else. So do people have preferences? I guess, yeah, maybe we should, anybody want to express themselves on whether they're ready to come back and start meeting in person, or how do people feel? Tom?
A meeting that I like in person is a July meeting with, and this time would be with Kate and Katie.
Right, we did that last summer.
I think that is, I think that suits itself better to a in-person situation.
Yes. Is there anybody here that feels like as of July, they will not be able to meet in person? Carol?
I just don't know. I'm hoping
know.
that I can rejoin the world, June-ish, but I don't really know, and probably won't know. My thought is that I can phone in, though, if someone else is meeting in person. It won't be a hybrid meeting, but one member.
By speakerphone.
Right, if they're not part of the quorum, it just would go back to the
Mhm.
old law. I think the legislation that extended the governor's order expires on July 15 at the moment. Who knows whether it will, there'll be another law passed to extend it, but I think we lose our choice for the
Yeah.
August meeting at least and onward at the moment, the way it looks.
But speakerphone is an easy option if you've, were still at that point feeling like you couldn't.
Yeah,
attend
I
in
don't
person.
know.
You
Yeah.
couldn't technically vote by, could you?
If the state it has it
It doesn't approve,
expired,
it doesn't approve it, yeah.
yeah. If it does, I can't imagine speakerphone wouldn't be allowed if Zoom and, other Owl and everything else is allowed.
I thought that I thought a remote member could vote so long as they were not chairing and they were not a member, were not required for a quorum, which had to be in person. I thought that others could vote as long as you had a in-person quorum and the chair, including the chair.
I think
Have
they
you-
did that, I think the select board did that for a while, right?
I don't know. I just don't remember from reading the law. I don't recall.
I think they did that, yes, that would be.
Do you want
that
to
would
check
be-
on that,
That
Carol?
would be allowable.
Yeah.
I'm
if we-
pretty
you
sure,
know,
I'm pretty sure
you can
that that's,
verify that?
I think that's the way the law stood before the emergency
Oh.
order and before the, the extension of the emergency.
So Gail is saying we don't have speakerphone I don't actually who it was. Was it Dimitri? Go ahead.
No, that was gay.
Yeah.
But I actually had another comment. We could use, I think, a hotspot to have a hybrid meeting with the OWL.
Huh.
Gay, maybe you can answer that as well. But no, we don't have speakerphone capacity in the conference room. That's correct.
No, there is no outside line that goes into that room.
Yeah.
However, we should be able to use a hotspot to be able to use the owls.
Yeah.
I'm going to be trying it at the end of the month with the Friends board meeting. And if it works, we're good. And with any luck, maybe we will have our Wi-Fi fixed by the time you guys are ready for July.
Yeah, so should we try to target July? We could have the next 2 meetings remote and then starting July, start back in person.
The other, where am I?
Yeah.
Am I muted? I don't know if I'm muted.
No, you're good.
Yeah, the only other thing is that I recall in August, there were people that were very happy to be able to phone in because they're on vacation and otherwise would have had to miss the meeting. So, that actually was very useful to have people able to phone in from elsewhere. Am I recalling?
Or
correctly? Maybe
Zoom in. You're not
Zoom
just
in
saying
from-
phone,
yeah.
but you're saying to Zoom in.
Zoom in, yeah,
Yeah.
for hybrid.
Yeah, hybrid meeting. So
Yeah, I mean,
So-
according to what's allowed at the time, maybe it couldn't be, you still need the quorum in person, depending on how, what happens after July 15, but
to
I mean,
have
that
the
was kind
hybrid
of-
option.
yeah, that
Anna?
was kind of handy for some people to be able to participate.
It is a handy thing.
Yeah.
Anna?
So I don't know.
Yeah, we also need to
You-
factor in this hybrid, or whether we do hybrid or not hybrid, or the upcoming interview of the appointee,
Right.
right? So we have to hopefully that'll happen, I hope sometime in May or maybe June. So that's something to also
Yes, so
consider
we will
while we're
have
going
probably have a special meeting and we'll do, how do people feel about doing that? In person or hybrid?
The
I
last-
personally think in person is better.
I would, I think the candidates should be in person, but whether all of us have to be is another question.
Right, and I remember back then it was in person and there were specific time slots. So each one, was almost like 20 minutes per candidate, and it was a revolving, so
Yeah.
that it was like a 3-hour
So
slot or
I
something.
think we would need a quorum of the board in person plus the candidate.
I think Rob is gonna get more information from Marianne about that process though, so maybe it
Yep.
makes sense to see, like, they might suggest meeting in town hall and then they do have an owl available. So,
If we
I
could do
was
an
thinking
owl,
about
then
that.
that
Yeah.
would simplify it.
When I was first interviewed, and appointed to fill a vacancy in 1976, it was at town hall.
Ah, okay. And I guess
And-
I would encourage most people to show up if you can, because
And
you
a-
don't
and
want the
actually-
candidate sitting in an empty room.
Actually, most every other time, I think the last time was the only time it was at the library. It was, I mean, I remember 3 other occasions when it was at town hall.
So, okay, so that's a good option
Yeah,
for the
definitely.
interviews. Yeah, and the room's a little nicer than the community room, which I found to be very strange when I came in for my interview several
Me
years,
too.
3 years ago. It was a little scary.
It was also very hot.
That was it hot. Yeah, I felt a little bit like I was on the firing line. So anyway, so okay, so we got some things to. We'll try for July in person but a hybrid, I guess I would say, with trying to have a quorum there, and anybody who feels they can't come in July, and a meeting or interviews with candidates will be also hybrid, but mostly with a quorum in person.
One problem with, meeting with that was, well, maybe not the case. We could, for the meeting with Katie and Kate, we could go to the
Town hall.
Town hall as well.
That's true. We could do that. Then that solves that problem, right?
And
Do
and
we
if you want
plan on
some
that?
old, you want some old history, when I first joined the board, the trustees didn't meet in July and August.
No, we do now. Oh,
used
we
to
can
start-
always, we
and
have the
our
option,
meeting,
right?
our meeting started at 7:45, and we had no agenda. Things have changed.
Well, we do have the option, so at some point we feel like we don't need like an August meeting, that's an option, so. Okay, I don't think we need any votes on that. I think we have a plan. And so, okay, so where are we, old business now, trust fund planned spending.
Yes.
Let's-
Okay. So Jen and I tried to revise a document based on some questions we got on Monday and get that out to you. So I hope you all got to take a look if there was confusion about where some of the numbers come from. We've just been using the format that was previously used for these reports, or for these requests and reports, honestly. So now you'll see what the actual increase to the balance expendable was as of November, which means the interest minus the 10% or interest minus 90% in the Henderson case. What the rollover balance was at that time. And then those together are the column that is the amount to budget within for this planned spending document. The encumbrance rollover column is not something we technically need a new vote on. We add it in just for this sake of understanding what the total pool of money that they still have to spend is. It's not additional, if they already had $350, we're not doubling their money accidentally or something. We're accounting for it. This is just what the trustees see so that they can see the rollover.
All right, just so to be clear, are we looking, which document? I'm a little fuzzy on these two documents.
So there's a planned, there's one that I sent today that is the updated.
All right, I guess I missed that.
And it just spells out the numbers so that you could more easily see what the funds were that we were supposed to be working within. I think when I introduced this last time, I had kind of said, but I tried to keep it very conservative anyhow, and especially now that we're near the end of a fiscal year, and this is for the fiscal year, which is actually a question that we had last time, or a conversation about last time, and very, like, literally the next day, looked at it again with Jen and talked to Anne and realized it definitely is fiscal year spending. And so, we're so far into the fiscal year now.
Could I ask you a question? Just take the example. Let's look at the top line of your, and this is just a revision of the document you sent with the package.
Yes.
Right, but,
Yeah, like the amounts I'm
That's different.
asking for are not different. That's correct.
okay, so say Carly Fund. You have the increase to the expendable balance. That's what the XP is, right?
Yes.
so the interest, the 10% or the 90% of the interest that you're allowed to use is $297
Mhm.
that was credited in, in the fall for the past fiscal year.
Mhm.
The encumbrances are from previous years that were unspent, that were voted on but were not spent.
Mhm.
And then jumping over, you added those two together, you could budget, they asked for 647, but you're not. You're only actually asking for 400, which means the new request is just $50. Is that correct? You're really asking for 50 new dollars plus the rollover amount makes
Yeah.
400.
Because we're looking at what we can actually spend for these accounts.
Right.
And trying to keep a little bit more so that some of these balances grow.
Right, so you're really asking for $50
Mhm.
for the Carly Fund. There isn't actually a column that says what the new money is, but that's the new money you're looking for is the difference.
Yeah, and the reason that it was put together this way is based on the way that it had previously been done. So we're definitely going to be changing it for the next time, like 100%, because I don't think this works for any of us. But yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. So this actually, I mean, the only one, maybe there are just two funds where there's more than one use for the year, but more than one sort of particular use within the fund.
Right.
So you have 22.7 as being the total you're asking for, but so that's most of what's available.
Yes. But then the hatch fund has like 68,000 that's just unencumbered, available to spend. It's just accumulation of interest over the years that was never encumbered.
68,000.
If you look at the trust fund report, you'll see. So
I guess that's what I'm a little confused about is how those two relate to each other.
right, they don't need to relate necessarily. The encumbrance on any given trust fund report is a made up number that just comes from the balance expendable column. So if the balance expendable is, for hatch fund is 68,000, we're spending way under what is available because you don't want to be dipping too much into that. Like we'd like that fund to grow. The money just sits there and gets interest, and we don't need to spend that full amount every year. I would honestly prefer to save some of that for bigger spending that might need to happen as you update furniture or do different things, whatever it is.
So I guess I don't know what this, the significance is of this amount to budget within. I mean, I would think amount to budget within is the 68,000 and you're only asking
It's
for a little
referring
bit.
to the way that it had been done,
Okay.
which was Anne was taking the encumbrance from the previous year that had not been spent, whatever that encumbrance piece was.
Plus
So
a little.
not touching the balance expendable necessarily, unless we had to dip into it for something because there was very low interest or something. So
Okay.
having more balance expendable that is not ever encumbered allows us to respond when a year has a loss or something. We're still able to have a planned spending document. So I guess I would look at it sort of that way.
I don't disagree with the policy of, having some accumulating interest, not spending it all every year, but just in terms of the chart, I think when it comes to your next fiscal year,
Yeah.
it's not that intuitive like this, but anyway, it's better. I think it's better. So what you're asking for is that we confirm, I'm just thinking about a motion to confirm, approve the spending, the way it's laid out here.
Yes.
The only new spending being the difference between the encumbrance, the rolled over amount and what you have in the last column. It's the new money is really what we're voting on, like, right? Like 400 minus 350 for Carly and
Yeah. And I think
2,000.
the way that, yes, the 2,000, it's the fiscal 22 amount and fund total. So
there's no new money. There's really no new money in that, in the Carter fund.
right, it's more just stamp of approval that we're okay to continue using that money for that purpose.
Okay,
So-
all right. Well, I move to accept these expenditures, planned expenditures with this budget for the balance of 2020, fiscal 2022.
Second? I'll second it. Is there any discussion? I would like to just thank Carol and Kim for putting their heads together on this fairly complicated tracking system for trust funds and coming up with a way of recording it so that we all can look at it and understand what's going on. It's an important thing. So thank you for that. Are we ready to vote, or does anybody else have something to say on that? Okay, I'll do the roll call. Jay,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Anna.
Aye.
Okay, good. Thanks. Okay, so that is
Okay,
passed.
excuse me, who's second? I didn't catch
Oh,
who's
I
second.
seconded it. I seconded it.
Okay,
Yep, thanks.
okay.
Dave.
Your voice was soft. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Thank you.
Is my voice coming clear for you guys?
Your
Okay.
voice is very clear except for the second, at least for
Except for
me.
the second, yeah, I may have mumbled that part. Okay.
Technically, can you second it?
Can I? I didn't make the motion. Carol made the motion. Can the chair second? Maybe not.
I was gonna ask, but then I didn't want.
Is that a rule?
I don't know.
Okay.
No.
Well,
Did I
I
check-
can try to look it
Rob,
up.
do
Did I
you know?
second?
I'll second.
Tom, second. Okay, so strike my second and put in Tom's. Thank you. I will remember that going forward. And okay, so our next item that is passed, and our next item is the equity and inclusion resolution. Is there anything on that we need to talk about tonight?
Two quick things.
Yep.
One is that we had the book club discussion last, oh gosh, I'm thinking of, was
Wow.
the end of March.
Everything
Yeah,
is gorgeous briefly.
Yeah. Now, On Earth, we're briefly
On Earth, we're
gorgeous by
gorgeous.
Russian Vong, and it was an intimate discussion. It was very, very deep, a lot of good reflection, a lot of point of connections with the author, with the country of Vietnam. So it was really great. And we are ready to, and I'm put in the chat for our next discussion in May. And we are going to be reading Poet Warrior, a memoir by Joy Harjo, who was a poet laureate, three-term poet laureate. So that is one thing. The second thing is that the Needham Human Rights Committee is working actually with the library to create a display for Juneteenth and for Pride Month. So that's an initiative that started from the Human Rights Committee. So they're already connected with Sarah, and that's on its way. So I encourage you to visit the library to see how that turns out. And that's all.
Okay, thank you,
When is
Anna.
When is Pride Month?
June.
June, the month of June.
Oh, it is
Also
June.
June.
Yeah.
Thanks. So the next item is the Library and Arts Committee, of which I have one change, and then we're going to transition to Carol as the chair. So in May, we had, the last time we voted in January, we had the Boston Globe Scholastic Art Contest winners from the high school, but Gay Allen reports that this year instead it's going to be the Needham High School National Art Honor Society for May. Correct, Gay Allen?
That is correct, and it looks like it may be a bigger exhibit than we've had previously. So stay tuned. I'm still waiting for further word for them. But it looks like we are going to have 3D as well as 2D, and potentially a lot more than we have room for in the case that we may be using our top shelves. We've done that in the past for the high school, so I am looking forward to seeing what they're going to be sending us.
Okay.
Do you
Great.
need a motion to approve that?
Yes.
New exhibitor?
Yes.
So moved then.
Okay. And
It's
so
the Needham High National Honor Society?
Needham High School National Art Honor Society.
Oh, Art Honor Society. I was wondering, why does that, make sense?
Yeah. Okay, so I will do the roll call. Anna?
I'll second. I don't think anybody.
Oh, second. Yes, we need a second. Thank you,
Second
Anna.
and I.
And I, Rob,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jay.
Aye.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so is there Carol reporting on the MacGyver series? Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. We already voted on Carol taking the Art and Exhibits Committee for the year, and I will plan on passing along to you all my information and, where we are on that, Carol.
Okay, yeah, okay, we'll work on that separately. MacGyver, there were really, it was a sparsely attended second MacGyver on the program about mercury and mercury pollution and ways to so really assess and create sustainability with that chemical and other chemicals, other pollutants. It was actually, I found it a very interesting topic, or I wouldn't have chosen it. The program is on our YouTube now, though, so that if anyone does, what the presenter was very good. She really, she laid it out. There slides, but not, it wasn't a slide that had her whole talk. It was really some graphics or some things that were quite helpful and making her major points. So I would recommend it, actually. It was quite good. And the Notable Needhamites, the first program that we had was Gay Ellen transferred that at our request, transferred it to the Needham channel, where it was edited out. Some of the extraneous stuff at the beginning and the end was edited out. And I think they were going to either, I don't know if they were going to post it or broadcast it. I'm not sure about that because I haven't seen it broadcast, but it may have been already. I don't know. But so, there are many uses. That one actually was one that, people might want to come back to, kids doing a report or, about their town. So
Did you say that one's also been put up on YouTube? The Notable
That one is on, yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
They both are. Yeah. And that's it for MacGyver.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Friends of the libraries, anything to report?
We had a very successful event with Brian O'Donovan a couple of Sundays ago. It was really quite nice and filled 70 seats. And I think for the next Brian O'Donovan event, I guess in another week or so, there's added room for 10 more. I think it might still be filled, but the next one's going to be different. The first one was very music based, and the next one I think is maybe not so much, but I have faith in Brian that it'll be a nice event, and people were very happy.
He was very entertaining. He's wonderful.
And that one is going to be on the Needham channel too, because the same guy who edited Notable Needhamites said that he was next going to work on that.
Yeah.
So that should be nice to preserve that.
The Needham channel folks do a great job of helping getting everything together, and the sound system and all that, and with Gay Ellen's help also. But it was a smooth sailing for the Brian event, and hopefully we have a system in place that'll continue to be smooth sailing for future events.
Great. So thanks, Jay. Anything else from the friends? I guess the book sales, is it gonna be
June, early June.
June? Yeah.
I think 5th and 6th, or 5th through 7th, on a Friday through Sunday, I think.
And there are other events coming up. I know there was an event with Anita Diamond, the writer, that was postponed, but it's been rescheduled. So if you check the schedule, there are some other events coming up.
Okay, thanks. All right, so Library Foundation of Needham, Joan, hello. Thank you for sitting through our meeting. Any news or reports?
Yes, we've begun our rollout for our 20th anniversary. So we've done our first advertising of new etchings in the window and staircase balustrades. So, and we've met with Suburban Glass, so they'll be able to upgrade the etchings. And we have plans to probably move the lamp of learning that's on the staircase. So we'll have room for hopefully lots of names, and we'll see how it goes.
So you're going to start doing new etchings, or?
Yes, 2016 was the last time, and someone purchased a space on the balustrade to have their name. It's 36 characters that you can purchase.
Yep.
And we are asking for a donation of $200 for the staircase. And then if you want something a little more prominent, you can go to the window balustrade that overlooks the parking lot. And it will be $500, and we'll see how it goes. We have not solicited to businesses yet. That will be
Right.
next.
All right,
Yes,
that's exciting. Gonna see some new names up there.
yes, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. That's our agenda for tonight. We have trustee comments. If anybody has a topic, we have two. Okay, so Tom, I guess I'll go. Sorry, Carol.
Age before beauty. Okay, good.
Okay.
don't know
Yeah,
about
I
that,
just want to
Tom.
comment that I don't know, but we had the organization went so quickly. I want to give special thanks to Rob for the year his chairmanship. It was outstanding, and I appreciate that a great deal.
Thank you. And Kay, thanks for taking over and taking the reins. And that was an awesome first meeting.
Thanks. I'm trying. And Carol.
Well, you stole my thunder, Tom, on that one. The other thing is I really wanted to thank Faith for doing what's a pretty thankless job. A very difficult job. And, I think as you get to know us better, it'll get easier, but I'm sure it takes a lot of work to put these minutes together. So I do appreciate that. They're important. And
Yes, thank you, Faith.
Wait till you can't go back and watch the tape again, though.
oh boy, yeah.
That's
Yeah, thank you, Carol, and thank you, everyone else.
I just want to note that I enjoyed the article in the Boston Globe this last weekend that had the nice picture, Kim, with you and Ann. It was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got a good press agent.
That's right. Passing the baton.
It was the most awkward photo shoot because he wanted us to stand in these weird little
It came out okay.
But it came out okay. I saw the online article first and I thought, yes, I'm safe. I'm not in the photo. And then I got a call that it was in the photo and the actual print version. So I had to run out and see if it was terrible, but it was fine.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
No, it was fine. It was something that I got called down to do without knowing it was, I knew it was here that day to have a picture taken. And then she came up and said hello, went downstairs, and then called to say, hey, could you come down and be in a photo? So.
Yeah. Taken by surprise.
Yeah. Would have done more makeup.
Just a quick question. Did on April 1st, was there a staff photo taken?
We did not. It was so dark, and I came in with my photo with my equipment early, and it did not. There was no settings. I mean, yeah. It was good.
It was a dark and gloomy day, and there wasn't any place in the library that got enough light to get.
You would need it to be a bright day outside.
Yeah. Which I'm available if we target a brighter day.
But it did make me wonder, I should bring in my camera on a bright day in the summer and see what it looks like then. And if not, then we should probably talk about
a photographer, a professional who can light.
Yeah, who has lighting equipment. I really underestimated how.
There's also the front steps of the library.
I was gonna say, take it outdoors,
that would be probably.
Oh, that would be lovely, actually.
Yeah.
Free to all.
Free to all. That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay, so we'll set something up, Kim, and I'm happy to.
We didn't do the trustees either, obviously.
Yeah, and we'd love to do the trustees. Well, once we get our new one on board.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any
right.
other trustee comments? Thank you for bearing with me during my first time around as chair. So I'll call now. I guess do I have to announce the date of the next meeting or anything? I don't have to do that at this point. It's just a vote to adjourn, I think.
I
Okay.
vote to, I move to
Move
adjourn.
to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, and so I will do the roll call. Anna,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
and Kay, me. Hi. So thank you very much. And see you soon.
Thank you, Kay.